This week, SK Hynix is expected to debut to us here in the United States and be available for us to buy. Buy it. The pro versus the cons. I'm going to give you both sides of that equation in this video. I'm going to lay everything out for you and give you the bull case for why you should look at buying SK Hynix, but also going to give you the bear case. And we're going to summarize it at the end. And I'm going to give you my opinion as well as just kind of we're going to dig deep into this. And there's a lot here. You're going to need to stay to the end because if you are even remotely thinking about SK Hynix, which I certainly am, and wanting to have access to them to be able to invest in, this is the video for you. So let's jump into this. Okay, so the bull case for SK Hynix and why investors should be bullish. Now, there's a lot going on here in this infographic that I created here for you. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to zoom in on certain parts of it. And then, we can take a look at each of those respective parts. So in the upper right-hand corner, why investors should be bullish. Look, this is, in my opinion, right there with Micron. In fact, quite frankly, might be better than Micron from a leadership standpoint. SK Hynix is the AI memory leader, specifically in the HBM for the next generation AI GPUs. Okay, it's a pure play exposure. They have, again, HBM leadership. They have multi-year demand visibility from AI infrastructure build out, long-term contracts, all that kind of stuff. They have done everything as well as they can to manage this. And I think they're going to continue to manage it very well. We had a little bit of a misstep a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, where they kind of made some comments that reflected that they were maybe shifting away from certain types of memory chip production and all that kind of stuff. But again, I think that's kind of behind us. Okay. And this U.S. listing unlocks greater access to liquidity and valuation expansion for the company. And I think it's going to just take off. Right now, the number that they're expecting to go out is around 175 to 200 is what the expected number they're going to debut. The ADR is going to debut here in the United States. And by the way, that is not a one-to-one share. I think it's going to be 0.01 shares as far as how much you get. So right now, I think SK is trading in around that $2,000 range, somewhere in there on the Kospi market. It's going to debut around here, around that $200 mark. Okay. So back to what we were talking about. Okay. So right here down below, you see number one, it's the AI memory leader. Okay. Let's kind of jump into that. They are the leader in HBM market share. Okay. They are a key supplier to NVIDIA and their ecosystem. And they carry very, very high margins because HBM carries significantly high margins. What does that mean? Driving earnings, driving those margins, those higher expectations, and driving those higher earnings, which ultimately is driving the stock price. Okay. Similar to Micron, they have multi-year AI demand tailwinds. Look, I've talked a lot about this, but bottom line, and we're talking about this number two right here. I've talked a lot about this, all right, in a lot of videos. The fact of the matter is that there is AI infrastructure build out. This is nothing like the dot-com bubble, the bubble that burst back in the day. I was there. I'm 57 years old. I lived it, where every company was just adding a .com to their name and thinking they were going to get rich. This is different. These are hard dollars that are being spent. It is an arms race. The AI data center arms race being built by the hyperscalers is an arms race. Okay. It simply is. And you need to think about that. And the way that those hyperscalers are thinking about it is just exactly like that. They can't lose. They're going to continue to do, bond issues, sell additional stock, things of all this different nature, because they are trying to raise hundreds of billions of dollars. And who gets the bulk of those dollars? The chip manufacturers and the memory manufacturers and other members of the stack, right? Okay. So this CapEx expenditure is not going to go away. All right. The AI initiatives are worldwide. It is. Okay. So we're not just talking about the US market. So SK Hynix, Micron, all benefiting from that. Okay. Enterprise AI and inference driving continued growth. We have inference AI. We have agentic AI coming. All are going to drive massive AI chip demand and thus AI memory demand. And remember, we are at a massive shortfall right now from the companies, manufacturers, SK Hynix, Micron, all that kind of stuff. We have a massive shortage. Okay, moving on to number three, massive capacity expectation. Okay, SK Hynix is spending tens of billions, and actually more than that right now. They've done a $29 billion capital raise specifically to build out fabrication facilities, new fabs, advanced packaging, EUV capacity. They're investing to capture long-term AI supercycle. And one thing that's been talked about here is that is that memory is a cycle, right? It kind of does this. Look, these long-term contracts that SK Hynix and Micron have locked these companies into is completely changing that memory cycle. And a lot of Wall Street is still talking about that, but that simply is not the case. Why? Because it's evening out, it's leveling out, leveling out revenue. We're talking about multi-billion dollar contracts, long-term 3, 4, 5-year contracts, all coming in from major companies global, worldwide. All right. So continuing on, we're still on the bull case, by the way. We still got to get to the bear case, and I'm going to give you my conclusions here in just a little bit. Okay. U.S. listing does unlock greater value. It gives easier access to U.S. institutional retail investors. It's hard for us to buy it. It really is, right? It's going to give improved liquidity and trading volume, ultimately drive more revenue for the company, all that kind of stuff. Valuation upside potential. Look, quality and growth can justify premium multiples. Yes, we are talking about premium multiples. We are, right? We're not minimizing that. We are talking about premium multiples for these companies. But for the opportunity, and I think the long-term multi-year play here, because we're going to continue to see a shortage in demand. Ultimately, that supply is outstripping, which again comes back to a very simple equation for me. More demand, less supply equals higher price that SK Hynix can charge, which ultimately drives more revenue, leveling out, the cycle, and they can see the leadership of SK Hynix and Micron. They can see that timeline, and they can manage accordingly and manage revenue recognition. Okay. All right. So look, AI is the new industrial revenue. It is, right? SK Hynix is the #1 HBM market leader right there. That's enough in my book. They're it. They beat Micron. Okay. They're a top supplier to NVIDIA. Multi-year AI demand visibility. I've talked about this. They know that this is going to last for years. I think the memory cycle, the ebbs and flows are pretty much gone, in my opinion, because they can manage this. They can even manage when fabrication facilities come online. This is an opportunity. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the bear reasons. Let's talk about this. Okay. So, we can't talk about the bull reason without talking about, the pros versus cons. Okay. We need to know both sides of this equation. Okay. Look, number one, our expectations may be too high. I don't really believe this personally. I don't. But again, I wanted to present both sides of the coin to you. I think the stock has surged massively, just like Micron. But I think we have so much more upside. Now, the company has to deliver on earnings. They have to deliver on forward-looking expectations. They have to deliver on guidance, all that kind of stuff. Okay. But I think that here's what I think. Most people, and I think Wall Street, is still trying to figure out this AI super cycle. We've never seen this ever. And I think that Wall Street still is kind of scratching their head. Number two, it says memory is cyclical. I don't believe that anymore. This is something that we continue to talk about. It continues to be thrown around SK Hynix and Micron. It's thrown. I don't believe it. I believe that the long-term multi-year contracts with big, huge companies globally is going to help to take away that kind of memory cyclical discussion. But a lot of people are holding on to this. All right. Dilution from the $29 billion share issue. Again, my opinion, yes, it's a thing. It's a large capital raise, but I don't feel like it's going to dilute. I mean, yes, on paper, it's going to dilute. Okay. But I think that the demand for SK Hynix here in the United States is going to far outstrip that dilution. And I think we're going to see the price go up. Okay. Potential volatility. Look, new listings have volatility. Is there a catalyst risk from a near-term standpoint? We've got an earnings report coming out weeks after the debut. We'll have to look at that. Okay. There is great long-term potential here. There is. Okay. Speaking of kind of moving forward, we need to real quickly shift gears and talk about what's going to happen this week on the Kospi market. So let's take a look at that. I was looking at chat going, hey, what are the expectations? Because I'm recording this video on Sunday, July 15th. The South Korean exchange is not open yet. It looks like consensus is that we're going to open modestly higher, 1 to 3%. It's about a 45% that we're going to open higher. SK Hynix attracts buyers ahead of the NASDAQ listing. So we might see people, buying into SK Hynix on the South Korean exchange, as a precursor to the NASDAQ listing, things of this nature. Okay. I think that's good. That's kind of the winner. We're going to see modestly higher. Look, it's way better than a massive pullback, because whatever happens in South Korea on their exchange, on the Kospi exchange, does impact. It bleeds over into, what we see playing out here in the United States. Okay. So now let's shift and let's talk about my conclusions. We talked about the bear case, the bull case, pros versus cons. And then I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do with buying SK Hynix. Okay. So the conclusions. Should you buy it? Okay. Why I'm bullish, and to an extent why I'm cautious. Now, I am not a chips all in. I'm not going to go buy, $50,000 on day one or anything like that. I want to see how it starts to trade. But look, why I'm bullish over here on the left, right? Let's zoom in on that a little bit. Let me zoom in on that. My apologies. Okay. Why I'm bullish. SK is the AI memory leader, HBM leader. They are by far. Okay. They are the dominant player in these high margin HBM market for AI GPUs, period. Number one. Number two, key NVIDIA supplier. NVIDIA, we all know, key supplier, deep strategic relationship. Okay. And they're mission critical to NVIDIA's, AI ecosystem. Multi-year AI infrastructure boom. I've talked about this time and time again. The number for 2026, 750 billion. The number spending on data AI infrastructure by 2030, north of 5 trillion right now. I think that number is going to go all the way up to probably 6 or 7 trillion. These are hard, real dollars that are being spent on AI initiatives. And let's call it what it is. The hyperscalers are in an arms race. They are desperate. They cannot be viewed, or they will not let themselves be viewed as a loser. It's almost like they have to do this or they die. Okay. What does that mean? Dollars will continue to be spent. All right. So every time you hear that equation of like, oh, well, the CapEx dollars are going to go away, it's not going to happen. Don't buy into that. Okay. But again, you have to do what's right for you. We know about the massive expansion funded $29 billion raise. I like that. Building out. Okay. Long-term earnings growth, more HBM share plus higher ASPs equals stronger profits ahead. I talked about this multiple times in this video. Okay. The higher prices are driving stronger and higher margins, which is driving to obviously higher earnings. Okay. So the NASDAQ debut, by the way, is on July 10th. I don't know if I mentioned that before. Why I'm cautious. Expectations are high. Expectations are high everywhere. Expectations are high for Micron. Okay. They are for AMD. Where any leader in any big sector of the AI stack, the AI memory stack, is the expectations are high. I think SK Hynix is going to deliver. Okay. Yes, the stock's already had a huge run. Okay. You could say the same thing about Micron. Okay. It may be volatile. I think it's going to hit and probably go up. I think there is so much pent up demand. And I disagree. Memory is not as cyclical as it used to be. Okay. By the way, this was given to me by Chad. I created this with the infographic, but I wanted to continue to talk about that. Okay. And am I saying that the cyclical nature of memory is completely gone? No, that's not my point. But I think it's being leveled out by those multi-year, long-term, massive contracts from all the companies. Okay. I am going to buy SK Hynix. Bottom line, right here at the very bottom, my conclusions. I am going to build a position initially and build it then over time. I'm going to dollar cost average in. Okay. I do believe that is a great 3 to 5 year opportunity. It is. Remember those numbers I talked to you about. We're in 2026 right now. AI data center infrastructure build out is going to go all the way into 2033. Okay. With valuations hitting hard. There is going to be short-term possible volatility with SK Hynix coming in. Is it going to impact dramatically Micron, what have you? I just don't think so. We might see a capital rotation. We might see sell-off in Micron for people to go buy SK Hynix. And again, DCAN over time if you feel like you need to do that. All right. I think this is one of the highest memory, AI quality AI memory companies out there. Period. It is. And I believe fundamentally that SK Hynix is entering the U.S. market is going to be a game changer for us here in the States to be able to buy SK Hynix. What do you think? Drop in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. I want to hear your opinion, but I think fundamentally, I am extremely bullish on this. And I think that there's going to be a massive, massive opportunity here for us. All right. Thanks for giving me a few minutes. Let me know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. And I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and that like button. Later. Bye.